Do we have any community comments as they may pertain to closed session?
We don't have any comments at this time, President Hernandez.
Very good. Thank you for that. Being done, the board will now convene to close session. And good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody joining us virtually tonight to the Snowline Unified School District Board of Trustees meeting. As we reconvene from closed session, there are no items to report out. For tonight's presentation of our nation's colleges, we'd like to take a moment to spotlight Pinion Hills Elementary School. For those of you who are unaware, Pinion Hills Elementary School, it's located at the west end of our district near Highway 138 and Oasis Road. Led by Dr. Shannon Avery, Pinion Hills serves 404 students from preschool through 5th grade and are known as the Coyotes, with a strong AVID or advancement via individual determination programming that has proven very successful. The AVID Coyote staff members pride themselves on their strong and collaborative professional learning communities, often simply referred to as PLCs. So regarded are their PLCs that educators from Australia once visited the school to observe and learn from their processes. So thank you very much to our AVID Coyotes for sharing your school with us tonight. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, and that'll take us to student presentations. I'm very pleased to introduce Ms. Jane Howower and her students from Toronto High School's Medical Pathways for tonight's student presentation. Mrs. Howower?
Hi. Yes, that's a very difficult name. I had struggled with it in the beginning of my marriage too. It is Harrower, so good job. I have 3 of my medical assisting students right now who have come on. They're going to talk about how we do medical assisting in this new online learning format and how that's working for them. So I have Kyra, Josh, and Soraya, and I believe Kyra was going to go first.
Sorry, my camera was like having troubles, but is it good afternoon or good night? Anyways, good afternoon, good night. Sorry, I'm Kyra, and I want to talk to you a bit about like the personal protective equipment, which I'm currently wearing right now. I'm wearing the gown, the hairnet, cap, and I was gonna wear the gloves, but they're kind of hard to like manage, also with like the computer and stuff. And we also do have to wear masks. But I also didn't wear it because, it's hard to hear me if I had it on. But about the personal protective equipment, basically we've been practicing putting it on. And like Miss Harwood times us and stuff like that. And she's always like, let's see who can put it on the fastest, And it's actually like really fun, like the adrenaline rush to like put everything on. And then like you look so professional afterwards. Oh, and also you have shoe covers. I forgot about that. I also don't have them on feet right now. And you wear these in the healthcare industry when you're dealing with patient care equipment and instruments that have been contaminated with blood or body fluid, because you don't want that all on your clothes and everything. And also girls have to have like their hair up because you don't want like all that blood or like any body fluid in your like hair and everything, because it's like a long day of work. And also she prepared these like little backpacks for us, which I know we're all grateful for. And it comes with it came with all of this stuff. It also came with like a thermometer that actually really works, which is cool. It also came with a stethoscope, which also works. And it's really cool to hear like your heartbeat and everything, like the way you breathe. And also comes with a blood. Oh wait, I always forgot how to call this. Sorry, it's a blood pressure cuff. Sorry, and I know most of you guys know what it is, but it's actually really cool because I never really understood how you used it when you the doctors would put on you. Because now some people just use the machines, but it's actually really cool. It's actually hard to manage this, and also when you're hearing for the heartbeat when it drops and when you can finally start hearing it. But with all of that together, we have to do vital signs, 5 vital signs each week, and we have to have the patient name, temperature, pulse, respiratory rate, and blood pressure. And I think it's really cool because you can like check how your parents are doing. Well, because I only live with my parents, but like also your siblings and everything. It's also really cool because like you get to practice and see how you've improved and everything. Because like at first when we were doing the blood pressures, I couldn't hear anything at all, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's all broken. But then after Miss Tara was like, no, you're fine. You just need to like get used to it. So then afterwards, like probably like 2 weeks ago, I finally started able to like hear it really good, and now it's like really fun to do them. And yeah, that's all. Thank you. I'll let Josh speak now.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Josh Calher Valdez. I am the acting HOSA president for Serrano. So first off, I'm just going to go ahead and explain to you what HOSA is. So HOSA stands for Healthcare Occupational Students of America. So it is a nationally recognized medical club that is based in Texas in the United States. Now, what I'd like to talk to you guys all about today is basically so we do many different events with HOSA. Usually we do the blood drives, then we do the senior citizens dinner for December. And then on top of that, we also do many other activities around the community. So we are very active and involved with the community. We've done the Feel and Family Fun Days. And on top of that, we also do many other different events that come up. And then when students do join HOSA, they do get the opportunity to go ahead and start their White Stole requirements. So basically what that is at the end of the year for senior year, we do have a graduation White Stole where it does have HOSA down one side and then we have their name put down the other. And then on top of that, we also offer them, they have to complete service hours. So for example, some of the things that we've done for the service hours so far this year is we've done the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Cyberbullying virtual event. And then on top of that, we've also done the Fall Leadership Conference with Cal HOSA. We also have done the virtual medical scavenger hunt, which we created. We have also done a few other events as well. Now, another thing that us officers would do as well in HOSA is we also do practice and teach all the kids CPR and first aid in HOSA. We show them different techniques. We go over different medical events that are going on around the world. And then every once in a while, we do have guest speakers. Like last week, we did have a guest speaker that was an RN. And for me, that'll pretty much conclude me, and I'll go ahead and hand it off to Sierra.
Okay, hello. My name is Soraya Morales. I'll be talking about the precision exams that we take and how we study for them and everything just leading up to how we do it. The precision exams we take are actually proctored. If we were in school, Miss Harrower would be the one proctoring them for us, but unfortunately we can't be. So usually what they have us do is we log into the precision exam and we get on a chat and our proctor is talking to us and they'll ask us if we're ready to take the exam yet or if we're just prepared and everything. And then after that, they will send us a link, and sometimes they will have you just keep your camera on your computer. Or for me, what they've done is they had me log into this website on my phone, and they have me just prop up my phone and have me show my hands and my keyboard to make sure I'm not cheating or anything for the exam. They also, before the exam, they have you scan the room to make sure that no one is around and no one will give you answers or anything. So no cheating pretty much. And Miss Harrower helps us study for these exams 24/7. We take two we take 2 practice exams, and then we take pretty much the real deal. But Miss Harrow gives us vocab words, and we make Quizlets off of it. And then in class, she'll go over the Quizlets with us, and she reads off what medical term it is, and then we have to talk and say what the medical term was. And how we take 2 practice exams, Miss Harrow will ask us if there's anything on the exam that wasn't what we studied, so she could go over with us to make sure that we'll actually succeed in the second time. The first test that we took, a lot of us, I think, didn't do so well, but the second time, Miss Harrow helped us out a lot, and she studied with us, like I said, 24/7, and a lot of our class actually improved a bit, like a lot. And we're studying for our main exam that we're supposed to be taking. I don't know exactly when, but they're actually scheduled exams. And these tests actually help prepare us for online college courses. They just help us prepare for it pretty much. And that's pretty much all I have as well.
That's great. Ms. Hauer, any additional comments?
Just that I have to say my attendance in that class is excellent. It's almost always 100%. My medical terminology, MedCore 1, it's really good this semester. A little slower last semester. This semester, these kids are really kicking it up. They're doing well, getting the work in. They got this down. I'm really proud of them. So I appreciate these kids coming out tonight or coming on tonight to do this for us. They really look forward to class, and that's what it's all about right now.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Wow, what a practical time to be part of this group, HOSA. So thank you for sharing that with us tonight. For the board members, any questions or comments for the group? Not seeing any. I've got so many tiles open. I can't see necessarily hands raised. So if you've got a question, go ahead and.
I'm going to go for it. This is member Bristol. Hey, keep going with all that medical terminology and all the information you can learn. There's money in those books as you grow older. The harder you look in those books and the more you learn, probably the more money you'll find down the road.
Ryan, is that your hand raised? Or Dr. Holman, I'm sorry. Is that your hand raised?
Yeah. President Hernandez, it is. I want to make sure that board members don't have a chance. I won't cut it until after they're done, but any other board members, no obligation there, of course.
Yeah. Well, I guess I have one question to the three of you. And how many of you plan on moving on into the healthcare field after graduation?
Personally, I actually plan on moving into the medical field. I have actually been accepted to Azusa Pacific and just recently, and also got into their biology program. So I'm going to be getting my BS there and moving on into medical school, hopefully one day at UCLA. So,
wow, excellent.
Yeah, I've wanted to be a registered nurse for a while now, since 6th grade. My godmother actually inspired me because she's in the medical field. But recently, I've actually wanted to start working with kids because I just love kids. So I want to be a pediatrician.
Oh, that's awesome.
Same as Soraya, I've for the longest time wanted to be a doctor ever since I was in kindergarten, but I wanted to be a pediatrician, especially because my pediatrician when I lived down the hill was super great. He was like the nicest person ever. He made visits really fun. So I wanted to be that kind of person for that kind of doctor for their children as well. And also because I have a few cousins and they're the best thing ever. And I really enjoy being with kids. And I think I get along with them well. So I'd like to become a pediatrician.
Absolutely amazing. Gosh, all of you. Ms. Howard, congratulations to you and your group, and that's amazing stuff. Thank you for that. Dr. Holman, I guess we have no other comments.
Yeah, thanks so very much, there, President Hernandez. First of all, to Mrs. Jeannie here, thanks so very much. You've been doing this for a lot of years. You were still very, very young, but you've been doing it for a lot of years and doing it very, very well. So thanks for your great support of this pathway that's been so successful. And really, my question, I'll just morph it a little bit because it's somewhat been answered. But to Kyra, Soraya, and Josh, how has COVID-19 changed your thinking about entering the healthcare field, if it has at all? Just if one of you, if not all of you, are willing to respond to that real quick, I'd just love to hear that, just because I'm just so very impressed by all of you and what you're doing for yourselves and what you'll ultimately be doing quite possibly for our communities here.
I'll answer that question. I actually hasn't changed one bit. I think even more, it's made my decision more stronger, because seeing how healthcare workers are just still try to put a smile on their face even after everything. Like my godmother, she said it's crazy right now, but she still tries to be the best for her patients and everything. And it's just amazing. And I just love her enthusiasm for her job. And that's exactly why I want to do it. But COVID-19, it hasn't changed my perspective on anything. It just made my decision more strong on me joining the medical field.
I'll kind of add on to that too and say that I have to definitely say the same thing for me. And honestly, COVID-19 has made me realize a lot that, anything is possible as long as you put your mind to it. And honestly, if anything, it's made me want to jump into the medical field even faster.
I guess my turn. But I basically say the same thing. It just makes me want to become more into the medical field so I can help people faster. And I know all of us also in medical assisting has the same idea as well, because it's frustrating seeing how everything's going right now and knowing how we could help, but we can't because we're still so young and everything. But I think I think it hasn't really changed. I think it's also made it really stronger.
Just great feedback, Kyra, Soraya, and Josh. I know I can speak for all the educators on here. We're just so very proud of you, how you represent ourselves here, and please just know that how much we appreciate you being here tonight and really sharing with everybody who's tuned in here. I'm sure it's millions of people here, of course, at our board meetings, that they just really see the quality of individuals who are engaged in this pathway and who come to Snowline as students. So thanks so very much. Thanks, President Hernandez.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you again, Soraya, Josh, Kyra, and Ms. Howard. Really appreciate you coming out tonight. Invite you, of course, to stay tuned into our meeting tonight. I'm sure there's lots of exciting things we're going to be doing here, but I'm sure you have plenty of good work to do tonight. So if you feel so, you may be dismissed. Thanks so much again. All right, we'll move on to item F of our agenda for community comments. Have we received any comments tonight?
No, there are no community comments tonight.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item G, the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as it's been presented tonight? Member Bristol, thank you for that. A second? Thank you, Clerk Kalum. I appreciate that. Any comments or discussion as to the agenda? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Clerk Kalum? Aye. Member Behringer?
Aye.
Member Bristol?
Aye.
Member Flores?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you very much for that. It'll take us to item H for the consent agenda. Do any of the board members wish to pull any items from consent tonight for discussion? I see no indication of that. With that, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as it's been presented? Member Bristol, thank you. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Member Berenger. Any comment or discussion to the consent agenda? I would like to make a comment very quickly on the MOU between Snowline and Victor Valley College. I just want to share my appreciation for the continued work with VVC to have Serrano's courses articulated with VVC so that our students can earn that college credit while completing their high school work. It's just a powerful opportunity for our students and allowing them just that much more towards earning their college degrees, all the while saving the student the cost of those courses. So thank you, Dr. Holman, Mr. Miller, for continuing that really great work. Do appreciate it. And we'll take a roll call vote on the consent. Clerk Bloom.
Aye.
Member Berenger.
Aye.
Member Bristol.
Aye.
Member Flores.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. We've just approved the minutes from the Board of Trustees meeting by teleconference on January 12th. Approved personnel motions. The State Preschool Program Delegate Agency Agreement, number 2021-0206 between Snowline Joint Unified School District and San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools for the State Preschool Program Delegate Agency Agreement. The Victor Valley College Career Technical Education Articulated Course Credit. Student readmission approval and approval of the district financial transactions. That'll take us now to I-1. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, President Hernandez. Got two agenda items to go over, one being the I-1. And I've got the right people in the room to help me out with this. So first of all, student plan, plans for student achievement, student plans for student achievement, the SIPSs. They have come before you for review over the next month. A lot of reading there for all of these sites. First and foremost, I want to thank all the principals and admin and their site teams for putting together these documents. A lot of work. And secondly, I want to give kudos to Pam Buchanan for offering her great support to all the sites as well. So I wanted to just review a little bit about what the SIPSs are. This is a good review for everybody, but especially for our new board members as they dive into this important item for the next month, so that we can get these approved next month. So the school plans, the school plan for student achievement it goes hand in hand with the LCAP. The LCAP being the kind of the all-inclusive plan for the LEA or the school district. Is the kind of that big overarching plan for our school district, and all of the SIPSs are the individual plans that are created by the school sites that support the LCAP. So they go hand in hand. I'm just going to give you kind of a school plan 101, just so you're aware of it and kind of have an idea of what the process is as we move forward. So I'll read this little blurb here from the CDE website to give you kind of a better idea of what these plans are. In an effort to reduce redundancies at the local level, the templates for the local control and accountability plan, the LCAP, and the school plan for student achievement, the school plans, have been designed to work together. The LCAP is a local educational agency, LEA level planning document with a 3-year timeline. And the new LCAP will be coming to you later on this year to kick us off for next year. While the school plan is specific to the school sites with a 1-year term. Despite these differences, the nature of each plan is similar by design. As a result, an LEA and its schools can benefit from the use of a shared vocabulary and planning process that is embedded in a context of continuous improvement. And the way that continuous improvement cycle works, we've got kind of kind of a real time or living process for school improvement that has stakeholder engagement embedded all the way through. What they start off with, or what we start off with, is identifying resource inequities. And so we can, for example, we can look at specific student groups and just make sure that we are allocating enough resources to all the student groups so that they're all successful, both academically and socially. An example of this would be our EL students, English language learners, just looking at their data and how they're performing. If we don't see the growth there, or we notice a significant achievement gap, that just tells us that there is a resource inequity there, and that we've got to shore that up to help support that particular student group. And that's just one example, but that gives you kind of an idea of what resource inequities are. From there, we move on to do a real in-depth analysis of test scores, suspension data, a number of other data points along the way that really demonstrate how students are performing across the continuum. From there, we will come up with some defined, identified needs for our specific school sites, and based on the data analysis, we'll go on there to create some overarching goals in the SIPSA. You'll see those. And then from there, kind of from a macro approach of those goals, we'll go into a micro approach of actions and strategies to bring those goals to fruition. And then we want to make sure that we have tangible and meaningful, measurable outcomes to prove that that what we're doing is being effective throughout that process. So that's what we have there. So once again, just a recap on that, stakeholder engagement, involvement is just paramount to this whole process. When we talk about stakeholders, we're talking about the students first and foremost. We're talking about staff, teachers, and the families in the communities that we serve. Identifying those resource inequities once again, making sure that we're looking beyond just what's good for all students, but we are taking that micro look, that deep dive into our specific student subgroups to make sure that we're creating that equity for both academic and social emotional growth. And then doing that analysis, first of all, finding meaningful data points, looking at those objectively so that we can come up with those identified needs that will grow into those overarching goals, those action services or strategies and activities that will support those goals, and then really finishing up the process by looking at measurable outcomes that will show us if what we're doing is working or not. So that's just some things to keep in mind. I'm happy to be a resource for the board members as you guys are reading through those documents. I know Dr. Buchanan is as well. And of course, all of our site principals are there for you to answer specific site-related questions if you come up, or if you're reading anything in their narratives, their goals, or strategies regarding their school sites that you want to hear more about. You can reach out to them. But yeah, with that being said, we thank you in advance for all of your hard work in reviewing the SIPSs. I know some of you have already jumped into those and then started reading them. But with that being said, I'll turn it back to you, President Hernandez, but I think we might have a question out there.
Yeah, I see that also. Member Colum?
Yes, Mr. Miller, just a couple comments and a couple questions. What I thought was really great about the SIPSs were the goals, for the most part, were very, very specific. And not only were they specific, but they were measurable. So I really appreciate that. One thing I would ask though is at the end of the, I don't know when do you review those, or is there a team that will look at the SIPSA at some particular date and say, okay, let's take a look at these goals and see if we met them and revise them, or what's our plan moving forward? Is there a meeting that that occurs, and who would be a part of that meeting?
Sure, absolutely. And I can hit on some broad strokes there, and of course open it up to others if they want to add to the process. But just a kind of an overview of what that process looks like. It is ongoing. It goes throughout the year. This is definitely not a one and done where they create the plans and put them on a shelf. This is where they all bring them to life. These plans have all been approved by their respective school site councils, and of course, those stakeholders will be brought into the know as they move forward with executing those plans, so that they can make some real time adjustments as needed as they move forward. Of course, if something is not proving to be effective, they'll want to make some adjustments during the year, real time, so that they can have a more positive effect on student achievement. And of course, beyond that school site council, the stakeholders within the school site, being the staff members, the teachers especially, they're brought into those leadership meetings or those staff meetings to measure the progress of those school site plans as they're moving forward as well, so that they can be part of the process and take ownership in the same.
Are these goals arrived at, the ones that are specific, are they arrived at by looking at like test results or grades, or what exactly goes into determining what the goals will be?
Absolutely. Another good question. Just going back to that continuous improvement cycle that I kind of reviewed with all of you, going to that analysis phase of that cycle. So for instance, coming into the beginning of a school year or into the summer right prior to a school year, taking a good hard look at the Casp data when it's applicable. Of course, we skipped the Casp this past year, so we had to look at other data points. Local indicators, maybe with Renaissance learning or some other kinds of assessments for measuring student achievement, interim assessments, things like that. But taking a good look at that data, once again, something that's a common thread throughout the school or throughout the district, that they can gauge growth and then set some good tangible goals for continuous improvement going into the subsequent year.
Just one last question. So Is there any coordination, let's say, between elementary schools on maybe certain pieces of evidence that are the same throughout the schools? Is there any collaboration on, well, our school tried this to address this. What did you guys do or on that?
Certainly. Well, the first group of teachers that come to, or excuse me, of site leaders that come to mind are the elementary principals. I know last year they had the opportunity of coming together a number of times to collaborate about effective strategies and goals and things like that. And I would certainly appreciate hearing from any of you of how you felt that process went. I know it was cut short when we hit the COVID season in March, so that kind of might have stifled some of the great work that you were doing. But that was definitely, it was evident that they were trying to create, a common, cohesive. Some goal setting across the elementary system, so that it wasn't so isolated site by site. Anybody like to speak to that from the elementary side of the house?
I can chime in for that.
Thank you, Maria.
Hi, my name is Maria Hughes. Nice to meet you. Haven't met the new board members, so I look forward to seeing you in person eventually. But out at Vista Verde, we have been working towards those school plans and the goals overall, but that work was truly informed by the root cause analysis that we conducted with the elementary principals, and it was one of my highlights of my career so far in Snowline, just working with our colleagues and just digging deep into the data that Casp provided for us and the interim assessment blocks provided. So We're excited to, see what the results are from the Casp assessment this year. I know last year we would have done amazing. We were absolutely on the course with our school plan work of all the after school tutoring and all the true interventions that were going on. And so we were a little bummed that we didn't have the opportunity to take the Casp, but we'll have that chance this year remotely, it sounds like, and we'll work off those data points for next year and then repeat. So but that root cause analysis was truly an amazing, very robust process that we really looked at every school's individual data, and there wasn't any fingers being pointed or any blame. It was just, okay, what are you guys doing? And what is this school doing that's outstanding? Oh, we see that your listening comprehension is higher. What are those strategies that are working? And we were just on the cusp of that, and then the school closures happened. So, but just know that this group of people, they're amazing, and the SIPSA process is a very real, dynamic, living document that all of us have been really grappling with this year. So
that sounds great. Could you explain root cause analysis?
Sure, without getting super technical. All of us, again, the district has been outstanding. Our district leadership has really made sure that we have opportunities to build professional development within our administrative group. So a lot of us participated in a training. I can't tell you when it was because everything's a blur, but it was specifically on how to teach us as leaders to lead teachers through the root cause analysis. So there's like a fishbone process. There's just a lot of different ways that you can, approach it. So we actually engaged in that activity, and we tried to find the root cause. We kept asking, well, why is it that number sense in kindergarten is low? Why? So dig deeper. So it was just a way for us to learn how to question ourselves while looking at the data and then making decisions in terms of instruction.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
And I'll tell you, Steve, to expand on that too. I know elementary was the first group I thought of, just because I had been privy to being part of that of a couple of those meetings. So I saw the work that was going on. But I know that our middle school leaders meet on a regular basis. And then our high school works at a different level. Of course, our comprehensive high school and non-traditional schools are different with different missions in general, but they still collaborate closely on making sure that kids, our students, have the very best placement for them to be successful. So it goes all the way up from elementary up to our secondary schools.
All right, very good. Any other questions on the board?
I would just like to thank all of our site administrators who are here this evening for all of that hard work that went into the SARCs and the SIPSAs, and Mr. Miller's team as well. I know that this took great effort, and it's a tremendous document. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd like to say thanks for putting all that work together. It makes for some good reading.
All right, excellent. So this information has been received for the trustees' review, and we will revisit this item at our next meeting for approval. All right, we'll move on to I2, Mr. Miller.
Thank you again, President Hernandez. For I2, this is the approval of the School Accountability Report Cards, or SARCs for short. Once again, just want to give my greatest gratitude to the principals and their teams for leading this work to creating those SARC documents, which are an accountability piece that we're required to have within our district for stakeholder access. So we know that you've had a 2-week window for the review of those documents. I've had some meaningful conversations with at least one board member, and I appreciate the questions and inquiries coming across the board from them. But we want to take this opportunity. We've got our principals here again, some assistant principals that have done the work. So we just wanted to have them here as a way to support you if there were any last minute questions regarding the SARC, so that you can feel really good in approving them tonight.
Thank you for that. Board members, any questions? Well, I guess from my side, I think most of the time these are very typical and standard in terms of the information reporting. However, on page 6 of both Eagle Summit and Snowline Academy, there was a rating of poor for an unidentified electrical issue. I've not seen previously where their details were not provided for anything that was founded. Do we know what this is and what has occurred with that?
I'm going to be honest with you. I've never found the cause of why we received a pour for the electrical. I've talked to maintenance. I'm not privy to getting that report. It goes to maintenance, and I just haven't had the time to find out what the cause is, or not haven't had the time. I just haven't gotten the answer to what the cause is and how we can improve on that. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I have not seen that where it's reported without an issue indicated 100% of the time. If I've ever asked that the question of, whatever deficiency, it's already remedied. So I don't have an issue with those things. But when it was blank as to the cause, that was a little bit more concerning.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I've worked with our plant manager and to try and find out the reason for that and how to remedy it. But at this point, I still don't have an answer.
Okay, no problem. Another item I want to bring up, as we will go over shortly in tonight's meeting, we are doing all that we can to help our students succeed with the implementation of Board Policy 6157 and 0470. Those two pieces, however, address helping our students graduate. In these reports, particularly with our non-traditional schools, there is data regarding dropout rates. Are we currently experiencing any increase of this due to the current learning environment? We experienced a learning loss to the point of increased dropout rates right now.
For non-traditional schools, I haven't seen an increase in dropout rates. Rather, the reverse of that is that we have more students coming to try and graduate from our programs due to struggles in other programs. So I have not seen an increase in dropout rates.
Oh, excellent. How about on Serrano's side?
Currently, I have not seen anything with regards to the data on that. However, I do know that with interventions that are in place right now, we're really trying to make sure that we don't have any dropouts. I think we can research that once we get down to the end of this school year. Right now, we seem to have no dropouts, but once again, it's still kind of early. So if I can get back with you on that, I appreciate it.
Oh, of course, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. So in the data presented, it's obviously a little historical at this point, but it does indicate that our most vulnerable students are overrepresented there. Whereas most demographics are on par between non-traditional and or traditional high school, such as race, there's a surprisingly high representation of the socioeconomically disadvantaged students at Chaparral. Over 83% of the students at Chaparral are in this category. Does this data indicate that we have more work to do on an equity basis to ensure that this group is achieving all that they can with whatever limitations they may be experiencing? Do we have the right policies and procedures in place to help these students? It's a bit bigger question, I think, and perhaps it's the district wide, but in terms of that disparity on that socioeconomic status, any comments or thoughts to that?
If I can jump in there first, President Hernandez, great question. And I will tell you the answer is, I think you really answered part of the question yourself, right? It is a bigger issue in Snowline, in San Bernardino County, in the state, in the nation, to be quite frank. It's been an issue for time, and we're continuing to endeavor to make inroads. That being said, we have tried most recently to initiate some of those efforts that will continue to scale up fairly soon, actually, by the end of the school year, in terms of making significant inroads around what we value most specific to equity. And so look forward to that information forthcoming. I know you and I have talked about a little bit of that individually, but want to make certain that everyone can hear that across the system because it's tied to these leaders right here. And I'll just say real quickly, a quick segue. I would have said this right at the end, but I want to make certain I get it out there. In times of crisis, strong leadership's needed. You're looking at the site level and the directors who really make the leadership happen. You board members are subjected to us, the senior cabinet, all the time, but ultimately it's these folks who make it happen. And so when we talk about equity, they have it on their hearts, their minds, and it's no time like the present to be able to make inroads. And so look for really great things happening in the near future specific to that. But that being said, certainly don't want to talk over those specifically at the site level, if not Alan Miller at our level, about equity too. It's an important issue to say the least.
Of course.
I think it would be interesting to see what the percentage differences are from school to school, because we do have a high percentage of socially economic depressed just in the standard school. So how to see what the percentage differences are. Even though the number seems to be high in the non-traditional school, the traditional schools in our district have a pretty high number also.
Yeah, it's quite true. I was taking it in the lens of high school to high school, considering Chaparral is the graduate point for the students, as is Serrano. So just comparing those two apples together was what I was looking at and seeing, and knowing that Chaparral is the non-traditional part of that, the disparity. I think we're at 62% district-wide on socioeconomic disadvantage, whereas Chaparral was 83%. I mean, it was, a significant percentage higher. That question came into play. Perhaps it was a choice. Chaparral is becoming a school to choose that it fits your lifestyle a little bit more than Serrano. Gives you the flexibility of learning on your pace and graduating as you need, whereas Serrano is, of course, a traditional 4-year method. So just wondering what those influences are at play there. So, but the equity piece, I most certainly would like to ensure that we take a look at that. So, yeah, I am hopeful and look forward to whatever we have coming up as we make progress on this topic. Alrighty. Anybody else? Any questions?
I have a question since everybody's here. How are we doing with mental health? I mean, after hearing about what's going on in Las Vegas, are we keeping our antenna up? Are we seeing any trends among suicidal thoughts, or are we doing anything at all to assess that situation?
I can just jump in on that real quickly. First of all, the district level, the answer is yes. Are we doing things? Absolutely. It's been on our hearts for years, but no more so than now. I think you need to hear, though, from the site specifically what's happening. Then we can maybe end with some new efforts being put forth that I think are going to make a difference as well. So let's hear from the site there, right, Alan? Anything you might want to interject before maybe the site, so Alan?
Absolutely, they're the ones. They're the ones living it on a daily basis. So, I'd like to hear, some real time status reports.
I'll be happy to chime in, representing Wrightwood Elementary School. The mental or emotional state of our students has really been our number one priority going all the way back to March. And so that is always at the forefront of our minds as we are watching kids, watching how they engage and just watching their attitudes and how their personalities have changed over the last 10, 11 months. Our school counselor, Dionne Burns, she, with the permission from the district, has continued to provide in-person one-on-one counseling to about a dozen of our students. And the parents are so grateful for that personal support that she is giving those kids, and it really makes a difference in their outlook, not just towards school, but towards life itself, and dealing with the pandemic and the lack of socialization, and just the big drop off of personal attention that these kids have suffered. And in fact, it's Mrs. Burns has also been contacted because she's well connected in the community. She's had middle school parents and high school parents contact her, and she has provided counseling services for students who are no longer Wrightwood Elementary students, but several of our alumni as well, just as a gift to the community is really what Mrs. Burns is. So we're addressing that head on at Wrightwood Elementary.
I'll jump in there too. This is Kim Miller from Pena Mesa. We are regularly having conversations with our staff about not only surveying kids and communicating with kids and what signs to look for, and just talking about how kids are doing. Like John stated, our counselors are meeting with students who we have concerns about on a regular basis, both online and in person. But we are trying to address a lot of those concerns with advisory classes and teachers as well. I will say anecdotally, I feel like the longer this remote schooling and isolation goes on, the more of those concerns we are seeing. We are definitely utilizing the Care Solace program that you guys have helped provide for us, and feel like that is a good resource. But the relationship these teachers have with kids is the biggest resource we have to just try to connect with them and help them. So it is definitely a concern, but it is something we are keeping on the forefront of as well at the middle school level.
If I could just say real quick, these are all humble individuals. Clerk Colon, I so appreciate your questions. So also what's in the works, and I'll just share with you, we need to tie this to positive behavior interventions and support. It's not lost on any of you here, right? That we're very much committed to that effort. And just for all those who are listening, right, that's the really development of pro-social cultures that ensure consistency, predictability, positivity, safety, and ultimately to a nurturing environment. And so credit to these folks you see right here. So they're up in the ante from an electronic standpoint. We're going to be committed to implementing in due time here pulse surveys, so we can really do some universal screening to identify for what you're talking about at an even greater level than they're already doing. And then an example, we had a meeting today with Toronto High School. They've got a plan to be able to develop their tiers and the tiers 1, 2, and 3 in PBIS to further address kids at the high school level. And I can tell you every other school site is doing that. So just a real credit to them, because your question is so very powerful. Like I like to say, ultimately, we're in the people business here, and we just happen to educate kids, right? And those people who are first are students. And what you're asking about is so critical. And I can speak for all these sites here. We'd be here probably till about 10 o'clock if you heard all their plans, but they're doing outstanding work in terms of caring for those kids first and foremost. So super proud of them for sure. And thanks, Clerk Colon, for bringing up that super important topic as well.
Dr. Avery?
I think I'd also like to add, hi, everybody. Nice to meet the new members. That I think during this time, we also have to check in on the adults, having personal conversations. I talk to my staff often on the phone or like this just to chat, because, we're all experiencing the stress of this all, but also loss of colleagues, loss of family members, worrying about staff members, family members. So that's important too during this time.
Member Colom and then Member Bristol as well. So I'm not sure who had their hand up first.
I think Member Bristol, if you can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say a great question on the mental health and what you're speaking of with the adults. And I'm going to speak about Principal Willie Jones, and I'm only saying him because I don't get the rest of your messages. But it comes down to, I think some of this comes down to continual maintenance, and with your principal's message that you send out and the constant interaction that you have with the parents through that outlet. and then also through the children, that it makes a world of difference. And I know I thought to myself, man, I wonder if this guy has a speechwriter, because he just nailed this last principal's message. And it was uplifting and great for my mental health. So anyway, good job, you guys, and keep it up.
Member Florence?
Yeah, I think for Mr. Miller and then to any of the principals, if they can, obviously it's been a really crazy last, 9 months, but the amount of boxes where we don't have anything measured, a bunch of non-applicable boxes, will there be any information, any data we can have input in there by the end of the year so that we'll be able to get started next year with some just kind of correct data saying this is actually where we sit. I mean, it is a report card, so we would like to know if there's any way to grade how we're doing. I know we lowered a graduation requirement for Serrano about a month and a half ago, and obviously we don't want to keep doing that, but we also don't want to leave anybody behind. So what kind of, I guess, two things. What do we see in regards to data being input there? And then are we going to have to do something maybe similar? Do you foresee us having to change any standards, which obviously that's something we wouldn't want to do. We want to keep our standard as high as possible.
Great question. I'll start off and let anybody else contribute to my answers. But yeah, just a very good question. I tell you, as you can tell, when you look at the school accountability report card document, you can see that it's made for traditional times, for normal times. I don't think anybody who drafted that report card had planned for anything as different as we've seen in our learning environment over the last 9 months. So we as a learning community have got to be creative and look at the data points that we do have available to us, whether it be Renaissance learning, Casp interim assessments. We have been assessing students along the way, but I tell you, this year, when you talk about a report card, Daniel, I tell you, we have to give folks across the system an A for the effort that they put into keeping kids engaged. I tell you, that has been a huge victory. And I don't want to say we're at 100% because we definitely have students that have disengaged through this process, but I know people are just working feverishly to re-engage students and get them on board. But yes, when the smoke clears on this pandemic, we have got to be able to grasp the quantifiable and qualifiable data points that we can to see exactly what that learning loss is. And that's going to be where we get into the damage control phase of this pandemic coming out. And what we're going to have to do very strategically, and the principals know this, is that we can't go in with an approach of repeating school years so that we catch everybody up on standards missed. We've got to really look at it from a perspective of acceleration. What are the standards right now, being for next year's fifth graders, for instance, and what do we have to do to be able to shore up maybe some of those gaps that occurred during the remote learning environment? So hopefully that helps. But we're a data organization, and we're going to do the best we can to capture those data points that'll help us really evaluate where students are moving forward.
Great, thanks. I really appreciate it. And I like what you said, that maybe the name of the game will be acceleration, and just let's pick up where we left off. Again, it's not these kids' fault. It's not teachers' fault. It's no one's fault, right? It's just where we're kind of stuck. And I know obviously it's not specific to our district, but just wanting to know that we'll be able to get that snapshot of where we are so that we can go forward. And I don't know if there's any other principals that have any other things to add to that.
I can jump in here. I just wanted to share right now at Quell, and I can pretty much speak for everyone, we're planning for next year. We're seeing the things that we're going to need to put in place. PBIS culture is going to be different. It's really about connecting with kids, that social emotional piece. So we're looking at our master schedule task force to come up with a better way to meet the needs of the kids by extending class periods and things of that nature, PBIS coaching. So we're in the process of doing that. So when we talk about data, it's what we get is we see the kids that are struggling, and then from the enrollment office, Kirk Strickland and his crew, as well as Leslie and Joe Scribner, they're meeting with families to find out, hey, what can we do to support you if you're having a hard time getting online? How can we support you and get you back in and engage into learning? And so our teachers are working their butts off. Forgive me for saying that word, but they are, and they're trying to connect with kids. But parents are getting a hold of us and saying, hey, could you meet with my child? They're really struggling. And so it really opens that whole village up to find out ways that we can support the kids. So just know that all of us are doing our job this year, but we're planning for next year when they return.
Dr. Avery, I see your hand up.
Sorry, that wasn't correct.
Dr. Jones.
Thank you. I just wanted to applaud just the Serrano staff. We just had a number of seniors, 424 seniors that are on track to graduate. That number is where it needs to be. And just looking at just the intelligent staff at our counseling office, they were proactive in looking at those percentages and then also creating some strategies to get those students where they need to be without watering down the instruction. And so those seniors still have to meet those graduation requirements, and they're actually taking an extra class of English to make sure that they're getting the concepts and meeting those needs. So things like that, definitely want to give a shout out to them, as well as our cost team, which is made up of our deans, our APs, and our psychologists, as they're looking at the mental health and well-being of those students as they're going through the system. And so just want to let you know that our numbers, although they look rough right now, we are shooting for them to be either higher or on average of where those kids should be with all the interventions.
That's excellent. Thank you. Member Berenger.
Thank you, President Hernandez. It's not every day that, or every meeting that we have this wonderful audience here. And I would just like to throw it out there and ask, what can we do as a board to support you, to support our students?
Yeah, oh, microphone's not working. Tony, you actually have something real profound to say, so what you can go ahead and click off and click back on, see if that'll refresh your mic.
Anybody else in the meantime?
I would like, go ahead. I think that was John. Go ahead, John.
Sorry, Shannon. Yeah, Christine, I'll just share with all of the board members a conversation I had with our staff. We were talking about which kids, if we could bring small cohorts of kids back, who should we bring back, who needed to come back. And one of my teachers, I thought she made a really wise, insightful analogy. She said, what we're doing here, if you look at it from a medical model, what we're doing here is triage. And while all the kids are suffering and all the kids would benefit from coming back to school, we're doing triage. And we've got to look for those kids who are, figuratively speaking, bleeding to death. And if we don't save them, right now, we risk losing them. And so it goes back to that mental health topic. kindergarten through 12th grade, I am really worried about some of those kids who are bleeding out, and I'm afraid of the long-term effects of the lack of academic growth, the lack of social interactions, the lack of adult relationships and peer relationships over the past year, and I'm really concerned about that. So when you ask how you could support us, I guess just keep that in mind. Those are the stories that are keeping our teachers awake at night and are making our teachers really, really emotional about the work that they're doing right now.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. Did Mr. Buckley make it?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I didn't have much to say. I just wanted to make sure that I was thinking of prior to that question. Giving a shout out to Cheyenne Tatum. Having that social worker access has really helped those counselors go above and beyond what they already do. And so if you want to know what I think would help, I think another one of those Cheyenne Tatums would be a big, big help in that world. So you asked, I thought I'd throw it out there.
I appreciate that input. Anyone else?
Yeah, Mrs. Hughes.
Thank you. Yes. Today we had our walkthrough for part of our school plan, and Rick Hernandez and Ryan Bolins was there from Serrano. And it was about 1:30, and all of a sudden they said, "What are all those cars waiting for in the parking lot?" And I said, "Well, it's curbside food service." Well, curbside food service stopped at 1 o'clock, and the line was still out on the street. So I want you to just make sure that we are continuing to keep, oh gosh, I'm getting emotional, sorry. Push pause.
Yeah, we'll hear back from Marie. I've known her for so many years, and know that she'll be able to speak really well here in just a moment to the idea.
I'm sorry. Bottom line, keep the food service program going. It really is helping our families.
Mm-hmm. Don't apologize for that, Mrs. Hughes. We appreciate your passion and love for this district and our students. I appreciate that. Mr. Grijalva.
Yeah, thank you. First off, Board Member Bristol, thanks for representing Roadrunner Pride right there. And you have to join Class Dojo for Baldy Mesa so you can hear my messages too. My daily announcements.
I hear them. They're great. And I was just waiting. I was waiting this whole time for somebody to key into that.
Well, thank you, sir. Just to echo Mr. Buckley and Mrs. Hughes, as well as Mr. Garner, I think more than anything, learning is important, right? We're educators, but kids and families need help. And just to go back to some of the other comments that were made earlier, we are starting to see now that we're in month 10 of this pandemic, and we are in the hot spot of when mental wellness is at its lowest for human beings. Scientifically, January and February are always the hardest months. We just need to really pour into that. The learning is important, but those relationships and that support that we provide to staff and to kids is by far the most important. So whether it be food, whether it be, through Carasolis, I'm really excited about Calvin coming out because we really need those pulses to go out so we can receive information a little bit more informally. That's what's needed. And so the more we can push on that and really make that, I think it is the focus, but really tell our community, this is what we care about first is your safety and your well-being. And we know you're going to learn when those other needs are met. I think that's really important over these next 2 months.
Thanks so much for that. Member Behringer, anything else with that question?
No, I'd just like to hear from more of you, though. Just seeing your passion for our children is so profound. Thank you.
Well, seeing everybody here actually, makes me realize how much I miss everybody. That there's a number of you that we meet with often enough. It's still virtual, but so many of you, I haven't seen in quite some time. I really miss, so many of you It's really great. So thank you for all for coming out. Really appreciate all the time, effort, energy that both the SIPSAs and the SARCs took. Thank your staff. Thank you, everybody. Mr. Miller, Dr. Holman, thank you so much for all of that. And I think we have gone through all of our questions. Unless there's any last moment ones, we'll go ahead and this item is up for approval for the board. So can I please get a motion to accept the school accountability report cards from these 12 schools as they have been presented?
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Ms. Berenger. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
I got Mr. Bristol. Thank you for that. I'll take a roll call vote. Clerk Colon?
Aye.
Member Berenger?
Aye.
Member Bristol?
Aye.
Member Flores?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Thank you so much. And once again, just a huge thanks to all the administrators. Thanks for coming out and being a part of this.
Just wanted to thank the administrators for being here and just remind our board that they will be joining us. I want to thank them in advance for joining us on February 23rd to go through the same process should you have questions with the regarding the school plan for student achievement at the end of the month. But once again, just to remind all of you board members to please feel free to reach out to myself, Dr. Buchanan, and specifically the school sites if you have specific questions as to those school plans. But with that being said, I just want to make sure that our principals know that they can check out anytime they like after this, or if you'd like to stick around and be with us for the duration, you can do that too. But thank you.
Thanks. Dr. Ullman, you just raised your hand.
I did. I just wanted to, warn them. This will be about the third time they've heard the presentation at the end. So I would certainly just really echo what Mr. Miller said right there is we give them plenty of homework. So they will not offend me by leaving by any stretch of the imagination. I know you, President Hernandez, and all the board members support that too, because boy, they put in all kinds of hours. So don't worry about missing my presentation. They know it backward and forward, and I'll hear it again tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mr. Chacon. Yeah.
Hey, before they leave, can I give them a little homework, Ryan? I'm going to ask a huge favor before they get out of here. We are currently at 899 subscribers on our YouTube channel, and we are really hoping to get above 900 today. That was our goal. So before they leave, hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel before you get on out of here. Thanks, guys.
Like, subscribe, and tune in next time. All right. Thank you, everybody. That'll take us to item J1. Mr. Zimmerman, the student calendar.
Hello, everybody. Yes. So tonight we have before you the proposed student calendar for the 2021-2022 school year. We are proposing a calendar that very much mimics what the calendar was supposed to be for this school year in a traditional non-COVID school year. And there were a few little proposals or changes that were considered that different folks brought forward, but in the end, we, after collaborating leadership council and senior cabinet and Snowline Teachers Association, bringing this calendar, which really is fairly identical to this year's calendar if you were to lay them over top without COVID.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. I guess one question as you're speaking, this calendar is in line or collaborates with the rest of the high desert in terms of breaks and fall break, spring break?
No. We have talked often, and we do still talk often with other districts, but pretty much people do beat to their own drum. We have the high desert districts. There are districts that start as early as the first Monday in August to a little later than us to the Monday, say the week after we start, which then puts dismissal dates different by anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. There were 2 districts prior to this school year that were not yet doing a fall break. Only 2 districts in the high desert, and both of those districts, Snowline and Hesperia, added a fall break this year. So that put everybody in line, and that fall break falls within that Columbus week period of time, but it could be before, it could be the week of, or it could be the week after, depending on how each district takes it. Spring breaks can range over a 4 to 6 week period between public schools, private schools, universities. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I thought this last year that we were more in line with some of the other districts taking spring break.
Yeah, our fall break definitely became more in line with them. Spring break is in that neighborhood of where we take it, but there are some districts that still chase Easter. So in looking at this year's calendar, there are some districts that will not take spring break till the 2nd or possibly 3rd week of April, which pushes it way back, because Easter will be plus or minus 5 weeks, depending on the way that holiday is determined in the calendar.
Okay. Member Behringer.
Thank you. And this was run by STA?
Yes, by their leadership, and then their chief negotiator, who then talked with their negotiation team. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. This is for board approval. So I have a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion.
Clerk Loom, thank you. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Member Behringer. Any further discussion to that calendar? A roll call vote. Clerk Loom.
Aye.
Member Behringer.
Aye.
Member Bristol.
Aye.
Member Flores.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you so much for that. And that takes us to item J2, Dr. Holman, the second reading of the board policies.
Thanks so much, President Hernandez. You said it very well. The second reading and up for approval, board policies 6157 and 0470. I want to bring attention to the fact that, as all of you heard at our last meeting, just as that reminder, that these are temporary policies put in place a bit ago by our school district by virtue of the work that you did to address the pandemic that we're in right now. Specifically, when we talk about 6157, I really appreciate the work that's been led by Alan Miller and certainly Dr. Jones and his team there too up at Serrano High School. Just so appreciative of their efforts. And then on 0470, I want to thank Athletic Director Joe Knowlton up at Serrano High School. In those 3 instances, those names I mentioned, and all the others who certainly need to be recognized up at Serrano High School in this case, the notion of grace is being extended. That just so very much appreciate. We've heard from all of you, and it's just so very needed in this pandemic. And that's what we're trying to do. It was mentioned earlier that it's about that we need to be mindful of lowering our standards, and that's really not the case here, right? We're still maintaining the standards while providing these opportunities for kids to do what they would do in an in-person setting. And so again, just want to say thank you so very much. Of course, we'll answer any questions, but before that, Alan, do you want to speak to anything more that maybe I missed? Because you certainly had a huge hand on the 6157 piece.
Yeah, just couldn't be any prouder of the work that Serrano did. But it's got to be a part of that. Just finding a way to support kids during this very difficult time is so important, especially as kids are approaching the finish line and graduating, moving on to the world. We want to make sure that we're not being a hindrance along with the pandemic in this process. So I think we came up with some very reasonable interventions to help kids without lowering the bar, but just giving them a little bit more wiggle room that they might need for credit recovery that doesn't compromise the education integrity of Serrano High School. So thank you, Ryan.
For certain. And then again, just with emphasis on the temporary policy, as the pandemic subsides, we have the latitude, obviously, to revisit or go right back to our normal policies as well.
Fantastic. I was just going to ask, is there a trigger to taking down this temporary policy, but I'm sure that we will work through that as time comes. All right. Any questions on the board? No questions. Okay. Well, these policies are presented for board approval. Do we have a motion to accept these?
I'll make a motion.
I saw Member Bristol, so thank you for that as the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll take the second.
Thank you, Clerk Loom. A roll call vote. Clerk Loom?
Aye.
Member Behringer?
Aye.
Member Bristol?
Aye.
Member Flores?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you so much for that. Moving on to item J3, Dr. Holman. You are muted, sir.
Sorry about that. Swing and a miss there from me. As we've done for, let's be frank, too many months, right? We're doing this, and that is this information update because of the pandemic. I want to take a line from Alan Miller here, who always does so very well. You see coming up on the screen right now, and that's presenting the 25 slides. We'll go through them, I think, much more rapidly than probably the public out there might expect with 25 slides, because you've seen many of those. But Alan Miller talked about smoke clearing from the pandemic. I will say this, there's still certainly smoke, but I think we are starting to clear some smoke from the pandemic here. Some good news tonight, despite the many challenges that we're still faced with. I don't want to paint the picture that we're totally clear here, but using the metaphor that Alan used, that we are clearing some of the smoke. And so with that, I want to say that we'll go through these 25 slides. Certainly stop me at any point in time. And there is a slide at the very end, slide number 25, that will ask for questions, but certainly stop me at any point. You'll hear me look for some help, specifically from Dennis Zimmerman when we get to vaccines, and certainly from my other colleagues as is appropriate. And so with that, I'll just jump right into this. Here's that first slide. Alan, thank you so much. We'll go to the outcomes. Those outcomes remain the same. Make certain that all of you as our trustees have this shared understanding around what's happening lately in both the areas, at-home learning, but also the prospects for in-person learning. And then let's, if we could, come to shared commitments around where we're headed as we move forward. And so, Alan, I know we're on slide 4, and if, thanks so much. I appreciate you going backward. There's the agenda, very similar to what we had last time. We'll talk about the guidance. We'll certainly hone in on what we're doing right now at home. Just remind you on that real quickly. Give you the data that we know right now and the conditions connected to the data around our virus that we're dealing with, and then start speaking to in-person learning, where we're headed with that. We've got to give you some details about Governor Newsom's Safe Schools for All plan, and then the latest on vaccinations before we get to the end, last 4 steps that you'll see. So with that, Alan, thanks for going to slide 4 here. Just that reminder, we remain committed. We thank you for this public health guidance. Federal, state, and local levels continue to provide for us the direction that we head in. And just that reminder on slide 5, Alan, that continue to remain humble in the idea of knowing that we're going to have to change at times, and we're going at the speed to ensure that we can be smart about what we do. And so, Alan, with slide 6, you'll see those 2 designs here, just as that reminder for those who might be tuning in, and for all of us, we have those 2 specific designs at home, right? And then in person, when we can do so, we have the good fortune to have 2 designs for at home, the remote school design, the neighborhood design, which is still at home for most of those kids, and then homeschool as chosen through Snowline Academy. Thank you again for allowing us to have those 2 designs. We really appreciate that support. With slide 7, Alan, we'll see, and also into 8 in just a moment, those at-home learning designs that we just mentioned. The Snowline Academy, there's a choice for our parents that they have there. It's been longstanding and successful. And then in slide 8 is that remote school that still remains in play. And we've been talking to a certain degree about that as well tonight in the previous agenda items. So thankful that we have both of those designs and all of our kids engaged in those. And with slide 9, Alan, let's just remind ourselves we've got those 3 metrics, right, that are always measured by ourselves and throughout the state of California. Daily new cases, that positivity rate, and the HPI, the Healthy Places Index. We'll give you the latest on those as we go to slide 10 here, Alan. Just want to Start right now with the regional stay-at-home order. First and foremost, not a surprise, yesterday it was lifted for the entire state of California. Now, you might recall we went into the stay-at-home order based on ICU projections, and those projections, that word I think is really important. Why was it lifted, or around what data, I should say? The projections for ICU beds in the next 3 to 4 weeks for Southern California, our region, right? You might remember there were 5 regions, is at 33%. That's been a bit of a political issue if you've read over the last 2 days as to why did that occur. I think the best way to hone in on that, what Dr. Galley spoke to today, again, it's projections that ICU beds, even though relatively low now, will get over those 15% levels that we went into, that put us into that regional stay-at-home order. Now that returns us to that tiered program, okay? It also makes changes on many fronts. Restaurants, right? It makes changes in terms of now that can occur outdoor, and that list, continues. But when we think about the implications for education, just really want to remind ourselves, it's going to guide how we get back to in-person learning. Right now, we're in that deep purple tier because of the spread, but just as a little, I guess, spoiler alert, the trend is getting better, and that'll kind of segue ourselves, Alan, into slide 11. As we come off of the stay-at-home order, there are those tiers that we become very familiar with. And my apologies that the colors maybe don't quite do it justice, but the purple tier and deep purple that we're in, it's widespread transmission, but it's becoming less because, Alan, as we go to the next slide, we'll start to see our data. Now, and we see in this first data right here, this one is an old one, and I apologize, I didn't change it, but this is because the data haven't come in typically yesterday and still hasn't come in. Dennis and I have been watching this very, very closely, so we apologize that it's not available, but I just kept that one in here. The new data that have come in, Alan, as we start going to the next slides, because that was the daily case rate. Here are the updates for our communities. Okay, and I just want to share with you, all of our 5 communities that will be referenced in here have had just slight increases. Even though the entire county has shown a decrease, we've just shown some very slight increases. Oak Hills, the next one out, we're going to see Phelan with a slight increase of 122 cases. That's the number, again, that we've been familiar talking about, the daily case rate per 100,000. The next one's going to be Pinyon Hills. You'll see about on the screen a slight increase too at 53.3. And then we're going to go to Victorville. This is here at 180. Again, a slight increase. And then lastly, Wrightwood. That was the one that didn't increase. Stayed the exact same. I will be quite frank. Everything on that slide stayed the same. I'm kind of questioning that. I'll be honest, in my own mind, don't have any hard facts to say that was not updated, but all the data are completely the same. So I wonder about that from week to week. Now, all these community data, I want to say this. We think about the last 2 weeks in the community, the 2 periods of time. We talked about a bit of a mirage in terms of the effects from the holidays, and some of those weeks included Christmas Eve, Christmas, and also have kind of washed out. We're back to a normal cycle. We've basically just increased slightly. I think that says something about where we are. And what it says to me is that there is a slowing in our community when we think about those 2 previous weeks not being complete, in my view, because of those holiday testing numbers not being as high as typically what we've seen in the past. So going back from that page, or this slide, Alan, if we can continue with some more data to kind of start painting the picture. Here's San Bernardino County. And again, this has become more important now. Well, it's always important in the county, but more important in the regional stay-at-home orders gone. And now we're looking toward the county data to get ourselves out of the purple tier. You can see that trend going up and then back down. Why are all those in yellow within the purple tier for the daily cases? That's because those are the adjusted rates. Those are the adjusted rates by virtue of how the state shares those data with us based upon the number of tests that are being taken. Somewhat maybe detailed here. All that is to say, though, with that same metric being used since November 20th, you can see the trend going up until January 2nd, and now coming downward, and been coming down for a number of days now within those 2 weeks. And then also as we go to the right on that very bottom line, you can see ourselves going to 16% on our positivity rate from last week being at 20.5%, and then previously at a high, the highest we ever had 2 weeks ago. So again, that speaks to that downward trend. And in that final column, you can see the HPI, I would say concurrently going down, as does the positivity rate. So some good news there at the county level. And then when we see Snowline on the next slide, slide 19, Alan, my apologies again. You see those question marks, and again, thanks to Dennis. We were just checking that on a regular basis, and no school district, I don't want to say just Snowline, but no school district data were in there just prior to 5 o'clock. And I'm sorry I don't have those answers. I've asked, and we just haven't, gotten a response yet. So we don't have our own data. You saw our community data, so we can make an assumption that we might be around that same area. But you can see our data right there for now, and I'll certainly pass that along when we do get it, because the San Bernardino County Department of Public Health, if you've been in there, the format's a little different. It presents itself differently, but they do say in there that school data should be present, and they aren't in there. So my apologies for that recent change in their format and the lack of the data for Snowline right there. So from 19 to 20, with those data in mind, let's talk about in-person cohorts real quickly. You know about cohorts, you know about ourselves trying to meet the acute needs of kids. We heard even principals speak to that and the need for these cohorts. We're committed to, at least publicly, you heard from us last time, until at least February 16th. You're going to see in that very last slide, or the second to last slide in slide 24, our recommendation is we stick and stay with that date. We feel like with a downward trend of the data, we as a senior cabinet, in conjunction working with our leadership council, feel like that date for our in-person learning cohorts seems to be a date that we'll be able to work for our students and getting those kids with those greatest needs back to the site, particularly with the downward trend. And that in those darkened, or I guess I'll call them square bullets, if you will, you see those cohorts with acute needs, the elementary school waiver, that's off the plate now based upon this new plan that still hasn't been approved, that we'll talk about in a little bit more too. But also sports conditioning. Right now, I would say this, that some of us in here have meetings with Serrano High School. We know that there are some guidelines out there that do allow for sports conditioning, and so you'll hear from us at the end about sports conditioning that we'd like to get kids back, of course, as soon as possible. Certainly by the 16th, but even if sooner, based upon quite possibly what the conditions we can set forth for the kids to ensure that they're safe, knowing that these are outside and knowing that those conditions are masking up and ensuring the safety of all the kids. So we'll continue to monitor those conditions and inform you as we move forward there. And Alan, up from 20 to 21, we're going to see that Safe Schools for All plan that we talked about. I just have to be really clear here. Right now, that plan that rolled out on December 30th and the guidelines came forth to us not until January 14th, that plan that Governor Newsom shared to get elementary school children back to school as rapidly as possible, it still does not have approval from the legislature. And the indications that we're getting right now, again, approval hasn't occurred, but what we're getting is that there is a likelihood that the plan that Governor Newsom put forth on that left-hand side, 1 through 4, may very well not look the same based upon what the legislature wants. My ultimate message here is we've got a little conflicting message for us schools and school districts when this plan is put forth. The legislature hasn't approved it. And you see that, well, on that second bullet that we talked at the last meeting about an incentive grant. And in that incentive grant, that alludes to number one, that funding is put forth there, most importantly, to address the testing that's required in the plan as that plan was set forth by Governor Newsom, but is also being considered to be changed by the legislature right now. Our feeling is it would serve us best to look at the target date of March 1st, because we've always been doing the work around the comprehensive safety plan that's required. But for the reasons are many, but I will just say in short, it just seems, for lack of a better way of saying it, not prudent for us as a school district and in our roles as leaders to propose to you, let's approve a plan by February 1st when that plan is not even approved by the legislature. And so what we're endeavoring to do, and we'll confirm this on that last slide, is to target date that March 1st date to be ready, which then in turn would allow for considering the conditions as we collaborate with all the people necessary, that we'd be able to open up the waiver no longer exists, but elementary schools, if in fact by March 15th, which seems like a more realistic date, that we can get our county case rate down below 25. A lot of work needs to be done, but we feel like that's the most prudent thing to do for all the reasons that we said there. Again, give you that opportunity in that last slide to see the real clear ask, if you will, that we have from all of you. Specific to that. Now for vaccinations, we talk about clearing some smoke. I think here's where some smoke is starting to clear. To be quite frank, the greatest challenge not lost on all of you is to just get enough of the vaccines in the hands of the experts who can get those vaccines into the arms of the individuals really across our entire nation, but specifically Snowline's boundaries. How do we get those in arms? So the focus I want to share with you, and it was said earlier, right, by you, President Hernandez, notion of equity. And so I heard today from the Department of Public Health that is the clear focus of the state. And so with that equity in mind, I want to talk about 65-year-olds. When they were added in, that really, to no fault of anyone's other than just more folks were inundating the system. And that really, for lack of a better way of saying it, overwhelmed the system in terms of the numbers of vaccinations being available. So it has slowed ourselves getting to our educators, that phase 1B. But if you listen to Governor Newsom yesterday, he indicated he's simplifying the process. Phase 1A with tiers 1, 2, and 3, phase 1B with tiers 1, 2, all of those phases and tiers. After we get through phase 1B, which includes educators right now, which is really important, right? Includes educators, and I'll get to that a little bit more in detail in the next slide. But know that Governor Newsom's design is to very clearly then transition in that next bullet to a process that would be age-based eligibility. And so for our educators, they wouldn't have to worry about, I say worry, but they wouldn't be part of that age-based eligibility theoretically, because right now the state is committed to going through phase 1B, which includes educators, to get their vaccines. But once that phase 1B is completed, which again is law enforcement, educators in the agricultural industry, then it's going to be an age-based eligibility based on what Governor Newsom shared yesterday and Dr. Ghali shared today. Now, also I was warned, I say warned, maybe that's a strong term. It was brought to our attention as superintendents from Corin Porter, the director, that the allocation process may be restructured. I don't have a lot of details on that, but what I do know is right now the allocations go to the counties and the counties roll those out. What he indicated today, and he's going to find out more information, but he thinks that the state's going to control the allocations more. So there will be a change in the allocation process. Don't know quite the implications. I just put that out there because that's the latest from straight from the director of public health. And so we'll see what the implication is in terms of allocations. But again, I go back to that first bullet. It's really about having enough supply of doses really across the nation, because just a little aside, if you heard our CDC director, the new CDC director speak on Sunday, she had indicated that she does not have the ability, these are her words, and I'm paraphrasing, but she does not have the ability to really articulate how many doses are present in the nation. I mean, she said that as a CDC director. So there's some work to be done for sure on the vaccination front in terms of that allocation process. And then that last dark bullet, the new scheduling system, my turn. Governor Newsom rolled that out yesterday too. Right now, it's being piloted in 2 counties, San Diego and LA counties, and it's going to be an app-based. Not just an app base, it also you can do it through email, but an electronic system to allow for more effective scheduling so that those who are eligible, 65 and older, right? The first responders, and probably less so, but all those who are above that 1B phase, and then eventually all the 1B phase, and then everyone thereafter to more effectively schedule their shots. We've probably, it's not lost on anyone in here. We've heard the stories of our own family members, friends, neighbors, colleagues saying, I just cannot get a schedule. This opportunity, I will say it through my term, we will hope that will more readily line up the scheduling system for ourselves sometime in February. So that's the latest on the state level. But let's drill down on the county, because that's really in the next slide, Alan, on 23. That I think is probably most relevant to ourselves. I mentioned that we're in 1B right now. Law enforcement's being addressed at the San Bernardino County level. The question is, why just law enforcement, not educators? What I was told today, it's the smallest group of those 3 groups in phase 1B. Law enforcement, educators, and the agricultural industry workers. And why did they choose the smallest group? To be quite frank, what I was told, just supply, right? Let's try to deal with the low supply by trying to get all of our law enforcement officials and workers with those shots. Now, I was told that we should be getting a date in the next day or two, or this week. Maybe I'll just even extend that out a little bit. But I was told maybe the next day or two from our Director of Public Health for educators. So we're looking forward to hearing that news. Now, on that next bullet, I think this is where maybe the most smoke is just starting to clear, and that's developing some partnerships. So today had I think a profitable meeting, if you will, and the ideas of making some headway with our local hospitals. We're able to meet with their lead officials there from St. Mary's and Desert Valley. I really thank them for being part of meeting with a few of us superintendents, and they are all in on trying to provide opportunities to us as school districts as we work with public health to allow, cut through all the red tape or bureaucracy that occurs in terms of approval and all that, and make that happen. So 2 large scale opportunities that we're thinking about really soon here. I don't have dates, but let's just talk about the opportunities at St. Mary's out in Apple Valley. They're overseeing, you might see the names Providence or St. Mary's, St. Joseph, typically just still referred to as St. Mary's in Apple Valley. Their lead official said today that he believes he'll be able to scale up that hospital and be able to serve the districts, including ourselves, once they can get scaled up. Doesn't have a date yet, but can get scaled up for large scale operations at 1,000 vaccinations per day. And then at Victor Valley College possibility, I really appreciate the president out there, Dr. Dan Walden. And so as we spoke today, also, we started to make headway on using potentially, I need to be careful here, potentially using Victor Valley College as one of those large-scale providers, much like, we don't have a Dodger Stadium or a Petco Park, but here would be our large-scale provider where we can have drive-through vaccines occurring, hopefully really soon. Now, there's still work that needs to be done. Victor Valley College would have to submit through CalVax, but we got a commitment from San Bernardino County Department of Public Health, and that process of CalVax approves a site. The upside of Victor Valley Colleges, they are a testing site. And so what we heard today too is, since they're a testing site, that transition and approval process is much easier. I do feel hopeful in this regard, because then in the end game, as the high desert superintendent, that next bullet, we committed to, okay, we have our data in terms of the numbers of people who we think are willing to take that. So let's start building a plan. And so to that, Dennis, do you mind if I ask you to open up your microphone? Because you did an awesome job on just a short notice when I said, Dennis, we need numbers. Can we get a survey out? Because I want to go into this meeting on Tuesday with those numbers. Dennis, can you talk about what we found, where we are, and where we might be headed in terms of at least how many educators are at the ready here?
Sure, thank you. We, on Friday, put out a survey to our 968 school staff members here in the district, asking them a few very simple questions. Completely anonymous survey, asking them basically, are they planning to be vaccinated when the opportunity comes up in the near future? We also asked them, are they a classified staff member, certificated staff member, or management staff member? And do they do the majority of their work at a school site, or do they do the majority of their work in a department? We didn't ask for identifying school sites or identifying departments, so just very generic information, trying to reach some numbers so that we could be able to share with healthcare providers how many vaccines would Snowline be looking for in this first go round. Because again, these vaccine providers do not want to waste vaccines. They want, so they want numbers, so they know, what they're going to be expecting if, when they do this. So we opened up this survey around noon on Friday. It's going to close tomorrow morning, but monitoring the data as of 4:30, just shortly before, our board meeting started at 5, we have had 51% of our staff members respond to the survey. And those responses come up with basically 41% of our classified staff responding, 64% of our certificated staff responding, and 51% of our management staff responding. So different amounts depending on the actual groups. And then the percent yes, we're running at 59% yes, I'm ready to be vaccinated, as soon as we can get that going. 41% no. And then when we break that down by those 3 employee groups, our classified staff that have responded to the survey, 46% have said yes in this first go around. Certificated, 67% have said yes. And management, 90% have said yes. So that's where we're at right now with those numbers. We also allowed people to add a comment or ask a question. And thus far, 27% of the people that have responded did add a comment or question. And the plan would be with the questions to probably do some sort of a frequently asked questions and answer those in an email back to district staff, not knowing who asked the question, but to the district staff as a whole. And then, looking at those comments and questions also just to learn, where people are coming from. So we'll do some more collating of this data tomorrow once we close the survey, but wanted to just have an opportunity to share where the data is pointing us thus far.
And so appreciate your for not just an example. This has just been a moving target. I think it was, we talked Wednesday about doing it Thursday. Like, hey, I've got a meeting, and we got this going. So thanks so very much for those data, Dennis, for doing what you did to get that in play, so that we could then finalize that second to last dark bullet down there when we talk about finalizing solutions. So with those data and us sharing those with our local partnership folks at St. Mary's, Desert Valley. We've got some opportunities now while we start to build out the structures, right? Because it's contingent upon a few of those dominoes to fall that I mentioned already. We've got a couple opportunities there. You see our registered nurses and licensed vocational nurses in our own district, as well as our own police officers. I really appreciate those two partners, St. Mary's and Desert Valley, saying, you know what? If we have some extras, we'll give you a buzz. We'll get these people vaccinated. Now, this is just hot off the press as of 2:30 or 3 o'clock today. I haven't even talked to any of these people. Just put it on the slide though, because I want to, just share the appreciation for at least starting to take steps forward to having the opportunity to get our educators, right? In this case, our health technicians, our school nurse and our police officers, that opportunity to start getting shots in arms, all the while knowing that we'll get that phase 1B hopefully really soon. You also see Borrego Community Health Foundation. You know about them. Dennis is going to be talking a little bit later on too about another opportunity. Know that they can be some providers potentially for us on the site What's in the way? Again, it's getting the doses, but that's not lost on you. I've mentioned that before. And so with that, update on vaccinations, San Diego County. Alan, thanks for bearing with me here. We've got our second to last slide, and that is just a summary of those recommended next steps and our ask of all of you. So, we're really committed to determining those vaccine solutions for educators. Want to still do that and keep all of you updated on what we can do. We really see the ask that just if you continue to let us build those partnerships, we'll keep you updated. We feel like it just serves our community incredibly well to try to bring vaccines to our boundaries, to our boundaries, or to our, I should say, the people who are working within and even living within our boundaries. Secondly, and that's that February 16th, we continue to think that in-person learning cohort piece is the right time, and that's in-person learning piece. I want to say that caveat. I've got some meetings with those who are looking at the youth sports piece, and if you can continue to trust us with that last bullet to monitor conditions, we'll keep you posted there, because I know that's a little different situation with it being outdoor versus the in-person learning piece is indoor, right? But right now we really feel like that February 16th date remains to be a good time for us to bring those cohorts back as we see it right now. And then the third one, since I've already mentioned the fourth one about always monitoring those conditions, that third one is that Safe Schools for All grant. We really feel like that March 1st deadline right now, while we continue to monitor the legislature, we feel like that would be the deadline for us to submit that, submit the necessary paperwork that we have working already very well. And we wouldn't have a problem meeting that deadline. But again, that very well could change based upon what the legislature, ends up talking about, or not even talking about, but ends up approving. So that's slide 24. Slide 25, really no words, a symbol that just really leads to questions. Gosh, I may have gone too quickly, maybe not quickly enough, but I would just open it back up to you, President Hernandez, and everyone else. What can we answer? Because this is it's a pandemic and smoke, and we're trying to clear it, like Alan, I think, said earlier.
Yeah, thank you for that great presentation once again. Questions? Let's take Member Behringer.
How about when is legislators, when are they going to pass something so that we know what we have to do?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. Now, I'll ask for some help from my colleagues. It hasn't been passed today. They're involved in it. Dennis, Robert, Alan, Nancy, have you guys read anything since we've been in here?
In reading an article from the LA Times earlier today, they're saying weeks before the legislature and governor will come to an agreement.
And so, yeah, thanks for saying that. And so, again, that ends up happening. We're past already the February 1st deadline. So it's a kind of a crazy time in that regard. It really is. I appreciate that question. That's an important one for sure. It brings to light the challenge.
And I greatly appreciate you keeping us updated with these presentations. They're very comprehensive and very helpful. Thank you.
Member Bristol.
Yeah, I agree. Great presentation. I just wanted to make sure everyone understands what, speaking on the vaccination piece and coming in the future, once the vaccinations are out and the instructors and the schools are allowed to get them, the PPE measure and the safeguards don't change. So that may be something that people aren't aware of, that once everyone's vaccinated or had the opportunity to be vaccinated, that it's just open, but nothing changes. Still, all the PPE standards are still in place once the vaccinations go through. It's kind of more of a comment than a question.
Yeah, Member Bristol, I so appreciate that. That's a great reminder that's told to us by the Department of Public Health on a regular basis. And that's, I want to maybe connect what you said to what Dennis said in the FAQs. And I should have shared too that a few of us superintendents were asked by the Department of Public Health, and we provided feedback in terms of what should be on those flyers, the information effort on vaccines. And that's one of those pieces there that has to be, part of it. And I did share that with them. So thanks for sharing what you did. That's an important piece for sure.
Thanks. I think I did have one question. It was in regards to the survey, and though I think I know the answer. the question as to will you receive the vaccination, was that just a hard yes or no, or was that a no with any kind of qualification, like no, not right now, or no, unless you can guarantee I have the second shot, or no, I just will not do a vaccination? And any kind of qualification to that?
Now, let me read you the direct question. I'm looking up the survey right now. Because what we are looking for is people that we're going to be able to say yes in this first opportunity. But let me read how the question was written once the survey comes up here. We asked the question as, do you plan to get the COVID-19 vaccination when you are eligible to do so? Now, some people are clarifying in the comments, I'm going to wait and watch. Those types of comments, which totally understand that. And they've answered no. They've answered no in their answer. They're going to wait and watch. Doesn't mean they're not going to at all, just not as soon as they are eligible to do so. And I think a lot of us are getting the opportunity, being in this 1B group, 1B phase, that we are getting a chance to watch. So we'll see.
Yeah, so appreciate that. If I can just add that real quickly. In today's meeting, one of the CEOs of the hospitals had indicated that wait and watch occurred extensively with his own healthcare staff. And so it's I think a situation that seems to exist not just in education, but again with that one local hospital. So I really appreciate that. But I hope you also appreciate that we went with that hard yes and no for a few reasons. One of which was wanted to be able to say today, hey, you're looking for doses today. We want to give you an honest answer. These are the ones who are saying they will walk in line, knowing all the while that it was discussed that people might be in that category that you just mentioned. So thanks for asking that question, allowing me to share some extra details.
Thank you all. Thank you both. Any other comments, questions? Well, Dr. Holman, thank you so much for that presentation. As always, we'll continue to look for those updates. We'll target that February 16th for cohorts, March 1 for elementary school. Keep our fingers crossed. Hope legislation can get some work done and give us some direction finally. So
I so appreciate that. And then as things change, I just have to say that again, we will certainly update all of you because it is changing. And that March 1st date, that's when the plan is, I should have been clear. That's when the plan would need to be submitted. And then that would allow for a March 15th opening. I wanted to make sure I made that clear. That's just how, and again, I'll be real clear. That's how the governor and his team had submitted the plan. That very well could change too, but I just want to make sure that made that little kind of nuanced change. I know you know that piece, but just wanted to make sure for those listening, everyone understood that.
No, moving targets, absolutely. All right. Well, we'll move on then to item K, Board Member Kaloum.
No comments tonight, Mr. President. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Member Behringer.
Thank you very much. Happy Kindness Week to all. I hope you're all out there spreading kindness every day of all of your life. As we are all working towards opening to in-person instruction, I, as well as the rest of us, are attending webinars on a regular basis. One that I attended yesterday, put on by CSBA and West Ed, provided a lot of really interesting data concerning, they had some panelists from districts that are not neighboring, they're not from our region whatsoever, but they were sharing their reopening stories and so forth. And as I said, West Ed provided quite a bit of data. One of the important features of reopening that a lot of districts are looking at is classroom filtration. And I was interested in knowing if this has been given any consideration at Snowline.
Yeah, filtration certainly has been, and I will share with you that we've got some strategies that are already in place. And well, let me back up. It's really I'll say it this way: we're in place from the get-go. are in place now, and even some future plans. I wouldn't do it justice. Robert, can you speak to those, because you've been the one who's most in touch, if you will, right, with ventilation there, and we've talked about this. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, great question. We are looking, well, let me back up a little bit. So we've been working with our bargaining groups as well, kind of addressing these issues. We've been, kind of updating our maintenance and replacement for filtration. We have been using the best possible filter that our systems can possibly use. We are adding additional air purifiers to those rooms that don't have any natural airflow. So those are already here and ordered and ready to go. But as we look into the new federal COVID funds that are coming our way, former President Trump signed back in December, those monies can actually be used for facilities and infrastructure. As before, those federal stimulus money as well as the state money, that was more specific to distance learning, bridging that digital divide, software, technology, those types of things. So we weren't able to really use those on facilities and infrastructure. So now moving forward, since we kind of have the green light and some funds, we're actually going to be meeting as a facilities team to kind of address, some of those bigger filtration projects. We're kind of looking at those areas like our multi-purpose rooms, our cafeterias, those types of really pricey and expensive machines that normally we wouldn't be able to replace in a normal given year, but really looking at those items to upgrade to really just kind of, further our filtration initiative in the district. So,
great. I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Also, many districts are looking at and they're planning for robust summer school programs. And it's sounding like we're looking more at the acceleration as we restore in-person instruction. So I'm interested in the thoughts of the administration concerning summer school.
Yeah, I'll start. We'll get the experts again. In this case, Alan, right, to speak more to that. Certainly, we've had some. I'll say this: we've started those conversations, and I think you characterized it very well, Member Behringer, when you talked about where do we get the greatest value. Right. We also know that there, when we talk about legislation, orders, and so forth, that might even force some of that hand. But right now, we've put ourselves in the direction that you talked about. But Alan, do you want to speak to? You're more privy to the more details of these conversations, because I know you've had some of these and you've shared that with us too.
No, absolutely, that's a very reasonable question for sure. As of right now, we're moving ahead with our planning of what our summer school normally is, which really entails the credit recovery. But this year is unlike any other, being that we are dealing with a high level of learning loss. So we will have to really seriously consider what can be done and who would be willing to participate, students and staff, in regards to any kind of remedial program to kind of shore up that learning loss, whether it be if we're talking summer school, it would obviously be done during the summer. We'll have to see, look at the feasibility in regards to funding and see if we would be getting any kind of supplemental funding that would support such enrichment learning from the state or federal level. But yeah, a lot of moving parts there, but definitely not blind to the fact that there will be a real significant need in that area. So thank you for bringing that up.
Sure. Mr. Chacon, am I correct in saying that they have, in the proposed budget, there is money for summer school program?
Yeah, there is that extended school year that was included in his legislature. And so, we're watching that really closely as well. We're kind of up against timelines, second interim coming right around the corner. So we're hoping the legislature can really get things moving for us. I sit on a education mandated costs network. And so we had a legislative hearing last Thursday, and prior to our hearing was the legislature on the governor's budget and this reopening plan. So I tuned into that last week. I'm going to continue to follow that weekly, tuning into their hearings just to kind of let it run in the background and kind of hear what's going on. Mm-hmm. But we'll be lucky to have it in a few weeks, I think, if last week was any indication as to how much success they're getting. So
I appreciate you all being on the cutting edge and tapping into every possible resource to keep updated information for us all in an effort to make good decisions as we move forward. My last comment is concerning the fact that those schools that have reopened, they have found when a COVID infection occurs through the tracing of it, that it's generally been adult to adult. And so I just want to really emphasize the fact that children are not those super spreader kids, as we reopen elementary school, and that the greatest occurrence of the COVID spread is found to be a result of the adult to adult infection. And so it's just so important to maintain mask wearing and social distancing while on campus, but also outside of campus. We can control that as adults. So I think that that's just vitally important to continue to spread that message to folks. And as Member Bristol expressed, even after vaccinations are given, we still have to maintain safety precautions. So that's all that I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Behringer. Member Bristol.
I just want to say great job to everyone tonight, and be kind to everyone. It's difficult for me because I was raised with negative reinforcement, and it works great on me for some reason. But I'm learning, and especially being around all of you, the positive reinforcement is much better. So keep up the good work.
Thank you for that. Member Flores.
Yeah, just wanted to thank the principals who all joined us tonight, and all the hard work, and Mr. Miller and all that work that went into the SPSAs, and all the hard work that's going into that, and those report cards. Just thanks for doing all that extra stuff. And really, I think it was Shad who had said, or Mr. Grijalva, that said, the learning obviously is important, and we are grateful for that, but really seeing the hard work by both our teachers and all the staff who's working hard to try to help our emotional and those needs that our students have right now. And I know I've said it before, but thanks to the parents and the students who are working really hard to try to make this work. That's it.
All right, thank you for that. My comments, yes, happy Kindness Week, everybody. Everyone in our district does that so well, and I have to remember that. My job often has me feeling less than my most kind possible, so I will feed off of everyone's kindness here. So keep up the good work. As we're going through tonight's meeting, I kept thinking of my MIG training that I had gone through, and some of the statistics that they throw out during those times. And most school boards will spend up to 2/3 of their meeting discussing topics that don't necessarily impact student achievement, that are more administrative in context, whereas the most successful districts will spend that same amount of time simply on student achievement. And I think this meeting, and it has been historically now, that this is one of the most successful and most educational centric meetings that we have. And I really want to take the time to appreciate that this is what it means to be a school board. We'll focus on student learning, student achievement. Where can we make better strides and do more for our students? And so, kudos to everybody, working on a great agenda and keeping the kids as the focus. That's what we're here for. So thank you, everybody, tonight for that. I want to thank all the site administrators for all the data that they culled through. Just a ton of work. So many times we say that, but it's just true. So I just appreciate them in everything that they work on. State lifting the stay-at-home order doesn't mean that we've won. it means that there's room in the ICU. So everybody, please keep up the good work. Keep your physical distancing. Keep wearing those masks. Let's stay safe. Let's push through the end of this thing. Let's get COVID out of here and get back to the way things should be. And I guess my final comment is more of a question. Mr. Chacon, any update to the Baldy Mesa school project?
Yeah, so that's moving along. Contractor was back on site Friday. They are currently building all of the, what we call them, he had a word for them, but it's all the like protective covers. There's a significant amount of HVAC units that are on the ground that are underneath the stucco. It's actually the whole east wing of one of the buildings, and then again on the south wing. So they're building protective covers to go over those. So when they start to pull the stucco down, those will not be destroyed. Those are about $18,000 a pop, each HVAC unit. So he's being pretty cautious around those because he doesn't want that price tag, and nor do we. We don't want that price tag in change orders as well. So that's the work that's currently being done. We're hoping that gets done, weather permitting this week, and we can get to pulling stucco down next week.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for that. That moves us on to administrative comments. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, President Hernandez. Once again, I cannot agree with you more as far as the positive vibe of this school board meeting. Just being so learner-centric, and we can definitely deliver up more forums like that in the future. It doesn't have to be to approve a SIPSA or a SARC. It can be for just ongoing continual improvement as a learning community through our district. I think you would all enjoy that, and I think the public would enjoy that. I know we got to still take care of business, but boy, if we can really beef up the student achievement piece of these meetings, I think that benefits us all as an organization for sure.
Here.
Thank you. Just, with that, I want to thank the board for their support with the SARCs and the SIPSs moving forward. I know this is a big task. It's a big compliance task, but even more important than that, it's what we do with that information, the SARCs and what we do with our school plans. Like I alluded to earlier, it's not to create this great plan and set it on a shelf and collect dust, but it's really to bring it to life and make it actionable for the betterment of our students. And with that, with the principals, I know they would be just thrilled if you as you find time in your busy schedules to reach out to those sites, get to know those principals, get to know their sites, their goals specifically. I know we're one district and we have a lot of common threads, but each of our school sites is unique and special in its own right. So I think you would really enjoy reaching out to those leaders and to their staffs and getting to know them. It might be virtually right now, but hopefully in the very near future you'll get to walk those campuses and see what it's all about on each one of our school sites. So thank you in advance for doing that. Want to just say how much I enjoyed the student presentation this evening. Mrs. Harrower is a wonderful teacher, a wonderful person, and she was so excited when I invited her to bring some students this evening. So she was very excited. I think you could read it on her face how excited she was to be spotlighting her program today. And that's just one pathway within a wonderful CTE program. We arguably, I won't even say arguably, I believe wholeheartedly that we have the best CTE program in the high desert. So, and even I'll even go push that out to the county. So we got a great program. So it's great to spotlight that. More to come. We'll bring more of our CTE programs in here to present to you guys to see, to show the great work that they are doing for students on that career technical education side of the house. And then just for the betterment of students, I want to share with you and thank you because we are in an MOU with Cal State San Bernardino. It's called the Cal SOAP program, and what that is I'll give you the full acronym here. It is the let me see, Student Opportunity and Access Program. So CalSOAP, and we've got a partnership with them, which I've been able to get the counselors over at Toronto involved in, just to being able to tap their students into some of the great programs and services that they provide to students, more so in that college readiness realm. So an example of this is Michelle Scribner, one of our great counselors over at Toronto, putting out a Communicate to Parents, offering the opportunity to enroll 9th and 10th graders into a college planning and advisory program. So to get students ready for that. I've made a friend and a colleague named Roderick Figgs, who's an associate director with the CalSOAP program. He works with high desert school districts, so we're starting to create a partnership there. He's real passionate about getting out here and getting us connected to some of the programs that they've got going. I'll give you a couple of examples. The he's working on a Summer Algebra Institute grant, which he'd like, if they get approved for that grant, he'd love to plug our district into that to benefit our students. There's also a Gear Up grant, which is gaining early awareness and readiness for undergraduate programs. And the goal of that program is to increase the number of low-income students who are prepared to enter and succeed in post-secondary education. So that kind of brings us full circle back to some of those learning inequities that we're talking about. And really shoring up those opportunities to get students that maybe are lacking in resources right now up to that bar, and get them onto a successful journey, whether it's post-secondary education, vocational training, or what have you. So we look forward to our partnership with CalSOAP. And one of the things that really strikes me with this gentleman is he does work for all students, but he really is a champion of those of student groups that where those inequities occur. So whether it be students of color or whatnot, people that maybe don't have access to the resources that other student groups have, he's a real champion of making sure that we close those equity gaps, if you will, and getting students plugged in and increasing the number of students that are on those pathways. So more to come on that, but thank you once again for approving that MOU, and I just wanted you to see some of the fruits that are coming as a result of the same. So have a good evening.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. Zimmerman.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a good night. It was just so much fun seeing the students on the screen tonight and getting to hear from them and just seeing the fruits of Mrs. Harrower and her program that she oversees and what that produces for students. And again, just a great example of the many awesome things that are going on in our district from preschool to adult ed. Couple of things. We had our first drive-through testing event last Thursday. Borrego Community Health is providing that for us, and they're doing those on the first and third Thursday afternoons from 1 to 4 in the afternoon, and that's providing an opportunity for staff to sign up to go through that process. Turns out it's a very, very simple process, and and a quick test as well. So great process there. Borrego is also in that MOU that was approved, is looking to help us with vaccinations as well. And we're reaching out to all kinds of different folks right now to make sure that we don't leave any stones unturned to provide that for our staff. A second group that James Fields again took the lead on and reached out to, Curative, which is a testing group, and they are a COVID test provider that San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools has an agreement with from, it was either December or the beginning of January. And what the county schools did is they also then worked with Curative to provide just a simple rider, what sometimes we call as a piggyback type of situation when we're thinking purchasing processes, but it's a rider where we could sign that rider with Curative, and they would then provide testing kits for us. And the way their process works, instead of people coming out to do testing, they provide testing kits. They mail you the testing kits. The testing kits are good for quite some time, before, just on the shelf. And then they train district staff to observe the staff member administering basically a saliva test. And what happens is the staff member does the saliva test. They then cap things back up, put it back in the little plastic tube, put it in a baggie, drop it in a box, and then we overnight those to Curative, and the results come back in 72 hours or less doing it that way. It's another opportunity to provide testing, make testing available on a little quicker basis versus just every first and third Thursday. That way, if we don't know what it's going to look like when we have, more students back, have more staff back, if we have a symptomatic situation, or if we have to start testing people in asymptomatic ways every week or every 2 weeks, based on the plan that the governor's proposed, this would allow us to do that in a very quick way, do it at each and every school site or department, wherever we need these tests. And so I just wanted to ask if we have your support in signing the rider that San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools has made available to us through Curative. James Fields and I met with Curative last week to hear what they have to offer, and checked out some of the other clients that they're working with, just to, make sure we're feeling good about it. And we really feel like it would be a good thing to move forward with, especially if Borrego was possibly able at some point in the future to transition from maybe first and third Thursday testing to first and third Thursday vaccinating.
Yeah, and President Hernandez, if I can just add, I just want to thank James Fields, as Dennis Zimmerman mentioned, and also Dennis. This is just that example again. Everything's evolving so rapidly, and so literally after we posted the agenda, this came up. We were able to, take advantage of it for all the reasons that Dennis just mentioned, and then again, we'll bring it as all of you get used to, right? Bring it at the next meeting here. Again, as Dennis said so very well, provide more resources in this time that's just so needed to have these types of resources. So thanks for the consideration for sure.
Yeah, more resources and more options always. It's a good thing. So
yeah, thank you.
A couple of hands up. Is that current Member Berenger? Go ahead.
I recall hearing some negative press about Curative tests showing false results. So that's just something that we'll want to research a little bit. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me put my hand down. There we go. Okay. I know I'm speaking out of turn, but it brought up some questions, him speaking about just to see if you guys have someone working on the future of when we do open school, like basically protocol for and this is all may happen, may not happen, but once we open schools, it'd be great to be pre-planning for certain things that come down, like a student comes in and has a fever at one of the checks. A student comes in and doesn't have is asymptomatic but doesn't feel well. Where do you send them? You can't get a hold of the parent. The parent's possibly at work. Do you put them in an isolation room? Do you have a room on each campus that you're going to put these sick kids in? There's multiple different things to follow, and that's all going to take time to put together procedure. We call them protocols. I don't know if you guys call them standard operating procedure, whatever you guys call them. But some of those things probably have worked on. I don't know if you have somebody specifically dedicated for that, but that should start happening so we can get back once we get back to school.
Yeah, Member Bristol, if I can jump in, amen. You said it oh so very well. And actually, that work has been going on for quite a while, is going on, and will continue. And I say that Robert Chacon is the one who heads that piece up for us. Robert, can you talk about the pretty detailed protocols that Member Bristol alluded to that are in the plans that we have to adhere to and that we've been engaged in and will continue to?
Yeah, for sure. All great thoughts, Member Bristol. We had to have already worked through many of those concerns with our elementary school waiver. So in order for our waiver to be approved, we had to abide by all of the CDPH guidelines, recommendations, and included in all of that stuff were many of the things that you were talking about, right? Quarantine rooms for students, health and welfare checks for students and staff, processes and procedures for staff that may become ill throughout the day or students that may become ill throughout the day. So all that's kind of already been worked out with our elementary school waiver process as well as our cohort process. So, as we were bringing kids back onto our campuses in those cohort farms and gearing up for elementary school waiver, all those plans were submitted to San Bernardino County Public Health as well as CDPH, California Department of Public Health. So it's been kind of approved through both of those agencies. And now the kind of new piece that kind of falls into more Dennis's world is that new OSHA guidelines, right? So those new workplace guidelines that OSHA has put out, we're looking at incorporating those as we move forward into the reopening, the March 1 date. For the incentive grant, the reopening incentive grant. So you'll kind of see those OSHA rules embedded into that safety program as well as we move forward into that March 1st incentive grant. So.
All right, very good. Mr. Zimmerman, were you looking for a consensus on those test kits or simply advising that will come forward at the next meeting?
We were looking for just a consensus to see if we could move forward with the process. Yeah.
Yeah. If by show of thumbs up, if I can see everybody for consensus on starting that process. There we go.
Okay. Thank you. And then just two other fun little personal things. Just got to celebrate certain things. It's fun to do. While we've been sitting here tonight, my wife just texted me that our second grandchild, they just made I don't know what you call it, an inducement appointment for March 28th because they're moving up here to open the Chick-fil-A store and they're still going to deliver at their hospital in Santa Monica, where their first child was born a couple of years ago. But that was exciting. So, we've known she's been due right there at the end of March, beginning of April, but now we actually have a date. And then we also have a date now for Chick-fil-A is doing a little ceremonial groundbreaking there in Victorville on Monday on the 1st, just turning over a few shovels of dirt and taking some pictures and things. So it's getting real. It's a lot of fun. So
I was hoping we were going to get an update on that. So thank you.
Yeah. So thanks.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. Mr. Chacon, your comments.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Two quick things. I appreciate Ms. Hughes' statement earlier about those meals. Just an update on meals. So I hope you saw the message that went out yesterday and again today about our meal service changing this week, right? We were only going to do meals today because of the inclement weather that is heading down our way, actually starting tomorrow and going through the rest of the weekend. So today we served 14,304 meals today across the district. The ladies really pulled through, and I can say the ladies because that is a department that does not have one male in the entire department, if I remember correctly. But the ladies really pulled it together yesterday. They showed up yesterday. What's the post office say? Rain, sleet, snow. I think we outdid it yesterday. They showed up yesterday, prepped meals, and got over 14,000 meals out today to support our students for the rest of the week. So I really appreciate Maria's sentiment and appreciate Tony and her team and all the awesome warehouse guys really pulling together yesterday to make this happen for service today. And the second part, just another big thanks to our principals. They took their homework assignment head on, and they delivered. We crested 900 subscribers. We're at 908. So we're going to hit that 1,000 mark. That's our goal. We're kind of working on a plan on how to get there. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Good job, James and Rick, in the background tonight. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chacon. I'll give Nancy just a couple of moments to start to switch over, as she often does. And when you're ready, Ms. Stapp, your comments.
Thank you, President Hernandez. Just a big thank you tonight for all of the principals. You get to see how much the kids mean to them and their passion for what they do. And it was nice to see everybody and see their faces and have everybody with us. So I appreciate all that they do for kids. And I just appreciate everybody for what they're doing during this time. It's tough. It's so tough. And I just, every day, I'm grateful for everything that everyone is doing. And as far as the Great Kindness Week challenge, Ryan will always win for kindness. I never see anybody be any kinder than Ryan Holman. And I don't care what you say, Ryan, it is the truth.
That's true.
And, I appreciate it because it just helps me to see my faults and where I can be better every day.
Thank you, Ms. Stapp. Dr. Holman, your comments, please.
Well, I think that's the first time I've never agreed with Nancy Stapp there. First time I've had a disagreement with her there with those last statements there, but very kind nonetheless. And speaking of kindness, here was what I was going to say is thanks to you board members for allowing us to engage in that really over years, right? If the new board members, forgive me, they might not be aware, we are a kindness certified district. We're certified by the group that puts together the Great Kindness Challenge every single year. And that started, just a little side note, by three schools in San Diego County, Carlsbad specifically, and now it's a worldwide effort. And so we're just very proud to be part of it. Thank you, board members, for allowing us to do that. And I want to combine some board member statements. I really appreciate Member Bristol when he said, we can't give up PPE. So we've got to stop spreading the virus. Let's spread kindness, right? And so let's swap those pieces out. Keep wearing that PPE so we don't spread the virus. And instead, we can always spread kindness at any point in time. So thanks for allowing us to do that. I also just want to echo what has been said about food services. Robert Chacon just said it most recently. And I'll tie together my third comment, and that's about the weather. So Robert Chacon and I, we have a great opportunity to get up early. I think we do appreciate it. We're kind of some of those crazy people who enjoy that, right? And get up early and check the roads. And we still are doing that in this environment. And I remember having this discussion. We were talking on Monday as the snow was coming down at Wrightwood Elementary School when we met up early in the morning and talked about, what are we going to do about food? And they came up with a solution again. I won't reiterate everything that Robert said, other than I just so appreciate that mindset, because that mindset is about kids and serving them and serving the community, making sure we talk about being under-resourced and we're not, by virtue of these wonderful employees who come up with these ways to serve. And so that's just a real pleasure to be able to see that happening. And relative to the weather, we said that we're going to try to maintain the school system in this at-home learning environment. And Monday was our first time, and credit to all of the staff members who made that happen. I put out a very, convoluted wish, and that was, hey, let's just try to keep schools open in at-home learning. And there are a lot of details that fall into place. And I just want to thank all 1,000 employees strong for navigating that piece. We're learning from that process. We've got more learning coming on the horizon, I think, very soon. So we'll continue to drive around. And again, our commitment to all of you is if we can keep learning going, let's keep it going, all the while certainly maintaining safety. And so I will tell you, on day one, the only negative comments we got was that we were maybe taking away some snow days. And I get that snow days are so much fun, but honestly, it's so great to be able to continue the learning while our staff members adapt to that environment. So thanks so very much for that. And then lastly, just want to remind our wonderful board members, all of you, February 9th, that's our next board meeting. And that's where we're going to be engaged in the development of values and belief statements and aligning our goals and all that really important work that I know you're going to do oh so very well. I've got all kinds of resources to forward to all of you. I'll work with a wonderful executive assistant, the superintendent, that is Nancy Stapp, to get those resources to you. I think you'll find them to be very helpful. Mitch Hovey and Dick Bray have put together, I think, a battery of documents and like I said, resources that will prepare you for 1 o'clock. It's going to be a long time. We'll make sure we get the requisite breaks in there, but I think you'll find February 9th. And then after that, March 9th, those 1 o'clock start times, they will be worthwhile because it really will allow us to do the great work that you always do in those contexts, to be able to set Snowline Joint Unified School District on that course that really is going to be necessary, not just now, but not just in COVID-19 times, but then in the next year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, set ourselves up for success. And so I'm just thrilled to be able to be engaged in that. So thank you to all you board members in advance, not just for tonight, not just for February 9th, but really for doing the good work that you're doing. And that is, we're a people organization that just happens to educate kids. So thanks for being focused on people. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Dr. Holman. Member Berenger, I saw you just raised your hand. Was that, you have a comment?
Yes, forgive me. I thought I had put all of our workshops or study sessions in my calendar. You said February 9th at what time?
Yeah, sorry there for jumping in, Member Berenger, too early. Correct, on February 9th and March 9th. Those are the 2 dates that we felt like we had consensus around, specific to our 2 great colleagues, right, and friends of the district, Mitch Hovey and Dick Bray, who will lead those efforts in doing the work that we just mentioned. So again, 1 o'clock on February 9th, that's our next meeting. And then 2 meetings from there will be March 9th at 1 o'clock as well. We'll go 1 to 5 and then go into closed session and then the regular session thereafter.
One more quick question. Thank you for that clarification. I have it on my calendar. Do you have on your calendar, there's a Golden Bell recognition on
Correct.
February 1st?
February 1st, that's right. Now, that Golden Bell recognition is for Snowline and the other 8 districts that make up the Mountain Desert Career Pathways. I think I shared with you when we won that. I think we even rang the Golden Bell one time in here. A little embarrassed. But maybe I took, some liberty that I think was also well-deserved, right? So when Matt Wells and I worked on that application, he did the large majority of it, but we could only submit one district. And so I said, well, of course, we got to go with Snowline, right? But then had to go run into the other 8 superintendents and apologize but what we were told initially, the story behind the story is, hey, we can only print one district on the award. Then I got a little nervous. I'm like, oh gosh, the superintendent's going to be mad at me, et cetera, et cetera. We were able to talk them into eventually it's saying Mountain Desert Career Pathways. It's the first time that there's ever been a collective impact award. So really proud to be part of it, honestly. And so it'll be nice to be part of that event. Matt Wells will be speaking to that at that event on Monday.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And I also wish to thank everybody in attendance tonight with us on our online channel. Your participation is always greatly appreciated and so important as we move forward together. There being no further business to come before the board, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Move approval.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bristol. A roll call vote. Clerk Cologne.
Aye.
Member Berenger.
Aye.
Member Bristol.
Aye.
Member Flores.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, okay? Be safe. Warm up, too. It feels cold out there.